Hello everyone and welcome to the city of Cadence, our East Coast based city here in City Skylines 2. As always, I'm your host and creator Legio, and if you like what you see on your screen, you should do the typical YouTube stuff down below because that would greatly improve my mood and it'd also be some good karma for you guys. So a quick disclaimer before we dive into what we're doing today. If you couldn't tell, my voice is a little off. I've been pretty sick lately. I got a pretty wicked sinus infection and it's kind of kicked my ass just a little bit. Also, another disclaimer, baby Legio has finally been born and she has joined our family and she is adorable and I love her very much. I've been spending as much time as I can with her, so all recording sessions are happening during nap time now. And if you hear noise in the background, that's probably her waking up telling me she wants something. And I've also been having to take care of Mrs. Legio from that procedure, and I've been doing all this with a sinus infection. So I guess you could say I'm the real hero of the family. That's right, I'm a hero. But anyways, today we are going to work on that giant rail depot I've been talking about for the last couple episodes. And I think we are going to do that right down here where all these rails meet. That seems like a pretty good spot for it. And it's going to be a very large rail depot. And it's going to be probably overcomplicated because I overcomplicate everything. But there is some real world inspiration for this build. And I looked at Oak Island Train Yard in Newark, New Jersey. So I'll go ahead and queue up the Google Earth real quick. So here is the Oak Island Train Yard. As you can tell, it's a very, very big boy. I'm not going to do a one-to-one creation of this. I have something else a little bit in mind. But what inspired me from this build is actually what's around it. So if I zoom out a little bit here so you can see, we have a cargo harbor area over here to the left-hand side of the screen, and that's going to fit in pretty well with what I have in mind for our map because our cargo harbor is going to be nearby as well. We have a whole bunch of industrial off this way, and that's always fitting for a train yard, and that will be the same case for our train yard. And then what really caught my attention is this rail line that's going over Newark Bay and feeding directly into the train yard. And that fits pretty well with what we have going on our map. So I figured I'd just kind of use this as a loose inspiration for what I'm about to build. So let's kick back over to live game and talk about what we're going to build. So with Oak Island in mind, I think for our city, we're going to use this main rail line here as the starting point. And we'll build the depot somewhere right in this area, just off to the right-hand side of it, so that it can service our cargo area, which is going to be over here. In a later episode, I'm going to build this a little bit later, because this area seems like a natural fit for a cargo harbor, has good access to the ocean, there's an outside connection right there, and we have some landmass that can kind of protect the inlet right there. So it seems pretty natural and fitting for that to go there. And then we are going to have some industry that will line up along the side of things over here. We'll build that a little bit later as well. Today's all about the depot. We'll probably end up having to rebuild this highway today because this is kind of jank. I've always known I was going to have to rebuild this anyway, so not a big deal. We're going to try to keep this line more or less intact because this feeds to a passenger station up into the urban neighborhood. And then we're going to connect our smaller train depot up with this rail line. And then that's going to carry into our old Riverside cargo port. And speaking of our river cargo port, there was a comment that was made a long time ago, but I can't seem to find it, where they said it was a missed opportunity I didn't put a cargo train station in here. Well, I think I'm going to call a mulligan today and get that accomplished. In fact, I'll probably start off by doing that because we now have somewhere in here, there it is, we have this cargo train that's much, much smaller, and I think it'll fit this area really, really well. So I'm going to start off by building that, and I think that's all I have for the live play, so let's just go ahead and dive into the fast play. So to turn this cargo space from the decorative backdrop it once was into something actually functional, I went ahead and dropped in that medium journal freight yard I showcased in the live play. Honestly, I got pretty lucky here. The depot not only fit perfectly widthwise, but the length lined up almost exactly with our existing rail we had down, which meant I didn't have to do any wild train gymnastics to make the connection work. It was also a happy little accident that the depot snapped almost perfectly with some of the existing rails I had in place. I did not plan that. The game just smiled upon me for once, so lucky us.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Because the building was relatively simple and lacking in detail, I had a lot of freedom to customize the area as I saw fit, and I managed to keep most of the original decals and surface detailing I did in previous episodes, which ended up saving me a ton of time. I used the rail line we previously laid down from our train depot episode to link up our new yard, so no major redesign was needed, just a little tweaking to smooth out that connection, and I added some extra track for some train storage on the back end. And with this space reworked, I was also able to squeeze in some additional industry here and there, while keeping our big container storage mostly untouched. I've never been in a large storage container yard before, but from every video game I've ever played, and from the looks of Google Earth, things do tend to look just a little claustrophobic to me, and also very, very chaotic in these spaces. So I can live with how tight everything ends up turning out. And with the redesign, it only made sense to add those new spaces for business. We'll need to generate some tax revenue if we're ever going to get out of the red, which who knows if I ever will. I'm not too worried about it, but it would be nice to look down there and see green instead of red. So I'm going to have to add in these small businesses here and there, and that can help and go a long way. It also brings in some more traffic to the area, which will liven this place up, and that's always fun to see. I've always found it a lot better to see these places full of traffic. A little bit of a traffic jam here makes sense. It's not a big deal. It's unrealistic for something like this to not have traffic coming and going anyways. And I always recommend tossing in a few storage bin and utility sheds like I'm going to do here in a second. They add to that industrial vibe with almost no effort, and they boost your economy while you're at it. So that's a pretty big win-win in my book. I love double dipping into that kind of stuff. And after a bit of detailing, the space not only turns out looking better, it actually is functional and it works now. And I really can't wait to see trains come and go from here. It's going to add so much more life and realism to the space, and I think overall it's going to benefit our city greatly. And it's now time to build the big one. The meat and potatoes of the episode, the reason you clicked on the thumbnail, the thing I've been talking about for a few episodes, our massive train depot. And I do mean massive. When all is said and done, this sucker will measure approximately 2 kilometers of length in game, and that's about 1.2 miles in American. And it's not as long as the 5 kilometers that Oak Island is, but in City Skylines, nothing is ever really one-to-one scaling, so I'd say we're close enough. And I did have to clear out an entire forest just to make space for this beast, so I'm sorry Mother Nature, but we need our trains. I'll do my best to plant more trees in the future. And I start by placing down our base train depot where I showcased in the live play, and then I dropped in the maintenance hall and added in some additional tracks to boost our train capacity as much as possible. Next, I used the better Bulldozer to rip out all the electrified tracks that came with the asset, and I did this because the default layout just wasn't going to work for what I had in mind, and personally, I don't like the look of the electric tracks in the game. I know electric trains are cleaner and quieter, and they probably make more sense for public transport and the public in general, but I like my trains like I like my coffee. Loud, dirty, and full of diesel. I then replaced each line with the non-electrified versions from Tygon's pack, and carefully lined them up to approach the depot doors correctly using Move It. You'll notice some walkie trains sitting where the previous tracks were. This was an in-game error that I was able to fix later on, just took some playing around with it off screen. When I deleted the tracks that came with those add-ons, it made those trains untouchable to the Bulldozer mod for some reason, but to fix this, I just removed the add-ons and then replaced them again. This didn't break anything, and we still have the same train capacity and things are working, so I'm not even going to question how it worked. From there, I started sketching out the rest of the yard using a mix of single, double, and 4-lane tracks. This was a delicate process. The rails can snap together in weird ways or create really janky nodes. To work around this, I would adjust the nodes manually. I'd first make the connection, then slide things into the position that I wanted them to afterwards. And highlight a pro tip here. This method can cause game crashes, so keep your save button close if you're going to do this, like really close. Save early, save often. I saved after every time I manipulated the node because the next node I manipulate would be the one to crash the game. So this was a little time consuming because of that, but lessons have been learned. I then extended the lines down towards the water and created a loop to bring them back towards the station. This isn't just for style points. Loops like this are a common feature in some real train yards. Take Sunnyside Yard, for example, in Queens, the one I showed you in a previous episode. It uses something called a balloon loop to turn trains around efficiently and keep traffic flowing. Actually pretty cool to look at. If you just analyze it a little bit on Google Earth, I think you guys will enjoy that. But for now, I'm going to keep my loop fairly simple. I might adjust it a little later depending on how the rest of the yard develops and how the harbor itself is going to develop. I'm already thinking about how the space could support future cargo harbor lines. The rail is what I'm talking about. So I'm doing a bit of foreshadowing there. One challenge I did run into during this build was finding the right entry angle from the main line into that yard. I wanted a setup where trains could flow in and out cleanly without creating bottlenecks or messy junctions. This might evolve as the harbor comes together, but for now, it's a pretty solid foundation and I'm happy with it. On the opposite side of the depot, I really stretched out the yard. Like I said, I wanted this sucker big. And this is where I expect to see most of our passenger and freight rail conflicts. So I spent some extra time here trying to engineer a layout that avoids traffic jams and delays. Train jams? Yeah, we're going to say train jams. The last step was hooking everything up to the existing rail network. Nothing too complex, just making the connections, making sure everything makes sense. And as for the detailing, I'm going to hold off on that for right now. This area will probably change a little bit as we build out the harbor and the surrounding area with the future industry. So I don't want to do anything yet that I'm going to have to end up ripping out and destroying. But I do plan to give this yard some proper attention later. And then I'm going to wrap things up by reconnecting the highways up and throw in some simple connections to link the depot to the road network. It's all just temporary for right now. I will probably redo the highways later on. And I've got some pretty big plans for an elaborate road connection once the harbor is in place. But I need to first build the harbor so I can figure out how everything's going to actually fit together. But while I make a mess of everything on screen, let's go ahead and read some comments I've received because I haven't done that in forever and I do enjoy doing that. So let's get into those. All right, we're going to kick these comments off going in reverse order. And we have a couple comments from our pal Ziggy here that says another fantastic build. And they said I should have probably done the alleyways a little bit different using a small road to help with parking. Says I could use some more parking near my commercial, probably right there. I just don't like the look, the aesthetic of a lot of parking in commercial zones, but it's probably what's necessary and I'd probably need to start adding it. And then he said use the pocket parks to fill in some more gaps. I'm gonna be honest with you, I forget about the pocket parks all the time. I'm just really absent-minded like that. And they said it looks like I can export some electricity and get some of that money back, but it's a great video as always. Yeah, I've been trying to export the electricity and the game's just not having it. I think I probably have a bottleneck or something somewhere. I probably built something wrong and that's why I can't do it, but I'll figure that out later. Money isn't an issue to me right now because when you have unlimited money, you're unlimitedly rich. So the next comment is they managed a break between chores to have a nice cup of tea. Well, that's good. I'm glad I could help brighten the day. And they want me to build a nice plaza next to City Hall. At a pocket park with a nice large lake. Yeah, I have a plaza next to the City Hall, so I think we're good on that. But there will be plenty of plazas to come throughout the series, I promise. And they say they wish they could play CS2, but watching content creators like myself put in lots of detail helps, and nice work. Well, I appreciate the comments, and I'm glad you enjoy. Next, we have Shumik Dupree, hopefully I pronounced that right. Says they enjoy the NYC Chicago style builds. I do too. That's why I build them. Probably because my family's from Chicago that I enjoy them so much. And they don't see a lot that is detailed like this other than Dava and Restless. I'm not familiar with Dava and Restless. I might have to look them up after this and see what concepts I can steal from them. Next, we have Nama Plays. They say the algorithm dropped my video on their homepage today and they want to say the build is amazing. Aw, you're amazing. So much great detail. Thank you for that. And how does my frame rate do with the services? Frame rate's doing good. I have a pretty beefy rig. If you want to see the specs, it's in the details down below, but it's handling all that pretty well. Would I recommend the decal packs? If your system can handle it, absolutely. They add a lot of life and character to spaces, and I don't think I could live without them now. And they end up saying, great video and keep up the great work. Well, I plan to, just don't know how often I'll get it out. Next, we have Mr. Michael Tessier. Says, I keep videos playing while they're working because I asked in a previous video how people consume their Skylines content, and he says he has them while he works, but he can't have something which is super distracting or he'll get into and probably not get any work done. I feel that. Says he finds Skylines to be a great balance and he appreciates the videos. Well, I appreciate you, sir. Next, we have Erdgeist with a little fox face. That's a pretty cool little icon. I like that. Says vibe coding, ? No. Vibe building, ? I assume that means yes, and you like the vibe of my building? Well, I like the vibe that you're putting out there, sir, so thank you for that. Next, we have our number one commenter, probably our super fan, is AppsDJ. Says these are his favorite types of video to watch, with the heavy detailing of a small area that ends up making a much cooler overall project once it's done. Yeah, that's kind of how I build. I do small areas and then I just gradually frame everything in together, whereas most Skylines content creators probably have their episodes that can be self-contained. Mine take a few episodes to watch and understand what I'm doing, but that's okay. It's just how I build. I assume you guys don't mind if you're still here. And then the last comment I have here is this makes him want to get back into CS2. Grids and density are some of his favorite things to build. That's when I was building the urban neighborhood, which if you haven't seen that series, well, mini series, you should check it out. I thought I did some pretty good work in that. And then he says the game crashes and he has to stop playing for 2 months. Well, that sucks, but I feel that. I do think that the game is getting a lot better with its crashes. The latest patch update did a lot of good work, so the developers have addressed some things, and the mod community's been great. When that patch came out, they got their mods up and working. I think most of my mods were working within 48 hours, which is pretty good for people doing free work, so hats off to the modding community. But that's all the comments I have for today, guys. If you want your comment read, you have to make a comment. I will read it. I just don't know if it'll make the screen because I'll forget. I'm very forgetful. But for the rest of this episode, it's me just working on highway connections, making sure they make sense and that they're going to be workable and feasible going forward. So yeah, I'll just let you guys kind of watch me make a mess of things there while we play some pretty chill music, and I will see you guys in the live play. Alrighty guys, so we're back live. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we got built and we'll call it a day. And basically what we got built is on your screen. It's this big, massive train depot, and I told you guys it would be massive. It measures approximately 1.7 kilometers. And yeah, I gotta say, I like how it turned out. I think the shape is really, really unique and cool. That being basically a NASCAR track, I guess. But yeah, this looks awesome and I can't wait to start detailing it. Again, waiting to do that until we see how this area over here for the harbor shapes up. That's probably going to be my next build. So stick around and watch me build that. I'm thinking this interchange is going to have to change a little bit to facilitate it, but we will see. And then we go over here to look at some of these goofy little interchanges. This Y interchange, I think actually looks pretty good. That's pretty smooth like that. But this little clover leaf kind of looks like it had a really bad night and had a horrible night's sleep. But it turned out that way because of the bodies of water around and the angles the roads were crossing. And I don't know, I think it has a charm to it. Just a little bit of a charm. So all that looks pretty good. And then the one last thing I wanted to do before we leave this episode where it is we'll look at our new functional cargo terminal. And this is looking pretty spiffy. The decals and everything look great. The detail turned out awesome. So the only thing left to do for it is to actually give it a cargo line. So let's go into the train tools here, get our cargo rail route. Yeah, that way we can have trains coming and going from it. I'm only gonna draw one cargo line for now, because if you draw a whole bunch at once, the station just gets bombarded by trains. So I think I'm going to go out to Ashland and back again. And then that should be good enough for right now. Because again, we don't need this station to have a million trains coming and going. It's not going to be the main one that's facilitating our region with trains. It's just kind of a smaller one to alleviate the big boy. I don't know, multiple cargo spots for everyone. So I kind of want to wait and see if we get a train. Oh, I think we have one coming right now. Oh, this is so exciting. Yay. Functional trains. This is so cool to see. I built something that might actually work. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy, that's a long train. Okay, well, let's see it enter the station real quick. This is going to be fun. All right, that's so cool. Wait a minute. What's that truck doing? You're playing a dangerous game crossing railroad tracks as a train is coming, my friend. Very dangerous game. But yeah, that is really cool to see. That is super cool to see. Probably not the best design to have this crossing a main road, because that's going to shut down that road, but it is what it is. And the train disappeared. Cool. So trains work, and they definitely Casper out like the old City Skylines way. But I think that's enough for today, guys. We got to see some trains come in, so that's always cool to see. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next episode. Oh, actually, here comes another train. This is cool. Wait a minute. How are you doing that? All right. Oh, you're going in backwards. Okay. Yeah, you do you, I guess. Backwards running trains. That's fun to see. Okay, enough of me gushing over this. I'm going to call it a day, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, you know what to do down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.